yourself. Catherine, sit here. No? We got quite a crowd. Another one over there. He's not. Paper handouts, we don't have to see. Well, no, other than. You saved yours, Janny. We didn't give it away. You better get back here now. You just save yours. That's where it's going. I knew he would mind. Bill got his chair. Good. Hi, Bill. There you go.
Okay, you're on. You're on, Jim.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was making handouts during the last couple of days, and I thought, 15, 20, well, I'll make 25. Go on the long side. So it's nice to see about 40 of my close personal friends here today. So thank you all for coming. I think that's probably a reflection of the fact that the topic, memory and brain health, is something that we're all interested in. I think we all probably know some about it, but hopefully I'll give you a few more insights. Just a number of you know my background. I worked in the field of aging. I started as a nursing assistant back in the 70s, worked at Ebenezer, my first job out of college, majoring in psychology at college, and then after work with older adults for 3 years, Jan and I moved down to Florida, where I went to grad school to get my graduate degree in gerontology, the study of aging. I was 27. So, I got an early start, and then for 35 years, I taught as a community faculty member at Metro State University, physical health and aging and mental health and aging, while also working at a number of nonprofits with older adults and their families. I went from Metro to St. Kate's teaching full-time, and I developed classes on aging at St. Kate's for their healthcare students to try and spark some interest in nursing and OT and PT and social work students in aging. So that's where I come from, having taught this area of memory and brain health is actually a more newer concept, and I mean it's not new, but compared to talking about memory, a lot of the research on memory goes way back, and I'm going to share some of the resources that I have located about that from previous teaching about it, but also I thought it's important to look at what's currently out there regarding this whole issue of memory and brain health. So one of the resources that I came across and was happy to see, some of you maybe have heard of Still Alice. It was a book. It was made into a movie starring Julianne Moore. who won an Oscar for her performance in Still Alice. Well, the author of Still Alice is Lisa Genova, and she wrote a book here called Remember. The subtitle is The Science of Memory and the Art of Forgetting. So we're going to learn about memory, but it's often the reason, our motivation for that is because of the forgetting part. When I think about teaching about this, talking about this, sharing information about this, I think, I'm not sure I'm the best person to talk about memory. Just a couple examples. I get on my bike down in the garage. I take my bike gloves out of my hat, set them on my back, carrier on the back, put my helmet on, and take off on my bike. I did that with Jan, and I noticed, oh, wait a minute, I don't have my gloves on. I reached back, there's one glove there, but there's one missing. So we retraced our steps and found it at a bridge as we go around the lake. That bridge you go across. When I hit that bump, knocked the glove off. Okay, well, that's, that can happen to anybody. I did the same thing the next week. I mean, don't set your gloves someplace that you may, it's keeping track, keeping attentive to what you're doing. We're going to learn a lot about that, hopefully, today, talking about this. What I really liked was when I started this book, the first sentence of the book, well, I'll read just the first paragraph. Picture a penny in your mind's eye, because you probably encountered a penny hundreds, if not thousands of times over the years. You should have no trouble remembering what one looks like. You've committed this image to memory. Some maybe have, or have you, she says. Which president is pictured on the penny? Well, that's pretty easy, right? Lincoln. What direction is he facing? Well, probably left or right. Okay. Think about that. Where's the date on the penny? How about the words liberty and in God we trust? What's pictured on the reverse side? She says the tail side. But those of us that are coin collectors, I have a fellow coin collector in the audience with Jean, know that we call that the reverse. Okay, then the reverse. What's pictured on the reverse? Could you draw both sides of a penny accurately from memory right now? Not, without taking one out of your pocket. And how can you both remember a penny and yet remember so little about it? Is your memory failing? She says it's not. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The point there is we see things all the time like a penny, but could we tell what that might look like? So I think we could share this with each other, because just looking at it, bring some of those around that way.
Pass them around, just pass them.
Yep.
So just quickly, there's a penny. So she says, unless you're an avid penny collector, someone who regularly examines and cares about features of pennies, like Jean and I, we know, for example, that the first Lincoln penny came out in 1909. We know, because we're collectors, even the person that designed that penny put his initials on it the first year it came out. VDB, Victor David Brenner. These are some things I remember as a coin collector, but who cares? Some people would say. Victor David Brenner. Well, the 1909 San Francisco penny, 1909 there's the S, there's the D, and there's the plane from Philadelphia. The 1909 SVDB had value, well, $40, $50. I don't know if it's been more than that. More than that, okay. And I had one in my collection, so I felt fortunate, because that's the key coin from that penny. But, okay, that's digressing here. You have a hard time exactly telling what it looks like from memory. So look at these 7 pennies, she says. 6 of them are bogus. Can you recognize which penny is the real deal? Pardon? C for Charlie, according to Ken. C for Charlie. I tried enlarging it, by the way, and I realize it's a little hard to see. Any other guesses?
States of America. I think F.
Huh?
I think
F?
F.
You think
F
it's
is in
F?
Frank, yep.
Okay.
You think, Gene thinks B.
Well, actually, Ken is correct. C.
Oh, C, Ken, good
correct.
job.
And it's because where In God We Trust is at the top, where Liberty is at the left side, where the date is, so
And
it's,
Lincoln's looking that way.
C is the correct answer, but I mean,
Correct answer.
okay,
Cool.
that's just an example of, okay, that's something that you'd think we might recognize, and if you're unsure, I have a penny here.
Yeah.
So, then she points out something else. Well, what about an example from younger people? Okay, let's see what younger people are learning all about. The Apple logo is one of the most recognizable images worldwide. Most of us see it daily. See if you can recognize which Apple is the real logo among these 9.
Whoever's phone is here. Whoever's phone is here.
It's covered up.
And we have someone who worked at Apple for 5 years in the audience. What does
Jan say? Jan, what do you say?
On the back of the phone, it's the only reason I know.
Jan I'm cheating if I look at
So is this something you likely remember what the logo looks like?
Oh, I see.
You see,
That's
you've
right,
seen
the
it
bottom of
a
it.
lot.
You're right, it's not 2, it's 9.
I think it's 9.
It is 9, yeah. Well, I have a phone in front of me here. Yep, 9.
It has that little chip on the bottom.
Fred has the answer.
It's 9?
None of these logos are the Apple logo.
This little guy's in the wrong way. It goes the other way.
Were you comparing it to something? Yeah, none of them are the actual logo.
That one's close.
We have the dimple in the
But the
bottom.
little, but the
Send them
thing
to the
goes the
principal's
other way.
office for cheating.
So this is based on research and testing that's been done. And she says in the original test of students, this is 85 undergraduate students, only 1 out of 85 undergraduate students could draw the Apple logo correctly. 1 out of 85. So you're not alone. And we wouldn't expect, as older adults, maybe as necessarily to know this as well as some undergrads or some younger adults. So these are just two simple points about that I like Lisa Genova made about things we remember. So what I'd like to do, this is going to be a little tricky too, is this is a quiz called How is Your Memory Holding Up? And I would say if you're here as a couple, if you could do it together, then we should have enough for everybody.
You win.
If you're not, fine, take your own. If you're single, take your own. If your significant other isn't with you, that's fine. We still should have enough because I'm sure we have 10 couples here. So, okay, I've got pens here.
You have tea or glasses?
Here, Jim, I'll pass them out.
You need your glasses? Oh, so, okay, start passing some around.
There you go. Doug? Canars. It's easier to oops, sorry, Catherine.
Pass some back.
Let me pass some
Thank you. I got more.
that to Mark and I'll come around the other way. You guys see a pen over there? One more, Doug. Pen or paper?
Anyone else need a pen?
They're coming at you, Terry.
Another one? Here you go.
Coming at you.
Pen?
Guys, do they need something or do they have something?
Everybody got a ringing instrument?
No,
You
those
good?
are different hands. All right, you and Jerry do your thing?
So 14 points there, you should be able to zip right through that. I did it, and I don't just quickly. So. A different piece of paper?
Well, I just wondered if they could do, can you do it and then if we write on, we read the question and one can write on there and one can write on there? Does that make sense? You guys okay? All right. Which one you okay? I don't know. Must be this one. It's only one answer. Everybody's looking for the rest of number 5 probably. We're not there
G-E-N-O-V-A. Lisa Genova. G-E-N-O-V-A. D. Genova would be even more Italian.
Does that continue?
Okay, looks like some have finished, some are still working on it, but we want to cover other areas too, so, and I apologize, it looks like some things got cut off in here, so we'll go over that, straighten that out. Okay. Most adults can't remember anything that happened before they were 3 years old.
One of the two.
What would be the reason for false? You remember something before 3? When you were 2 or 1? Are you sure? Okay. Based on the research, and you can see this is from WebMD, you might recall 1 or 2 events before you were 4, usually not much before you were 3. Children begin to identify objects around 10 to 12 months, and they may remember things that happened by the time they're 24 months, but they're unable, usually, before 3, to form memories that they can then recall. So for those of you that have, what would be a memory from before you were 3? Yeah, Kathy.
Well, I remember we lived on a farm and we had a pond right not too far from our house, and there was no fence. And I was walking. I got away from my mom and my grandma.
How old were you?
I was 2.
2, okay.
And I was walking, and I remember walking to that pond, and I stepped in the pond, and then I remember somebody pulling me out of the pond.
Well, so there's some significance to that memory.
It was dramatic.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, in my case, it's really the sensory. I was 2, and it was a suburb of Chicago, and I remember the people across the street burning leaves in their driveway.
Okay.
And I remember my dad pushing the lawnmower, and my older brother and I following in his trail. He would swerve all around in the front yard. But I really remember we were stuck on a Ferris wheel. We could see the train going into Chicago, way out there, it was nighttime,
Wow.
and they're really sensitive.
So the sensory part of it, which we're gonna talk about, the types of memories,
Yeah.
especially, yes, Mark.
I could say I was in my crib.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And you were 5.
Or a playground. I was gonna say 10. But I have a burn mark on the palm of my hand because my mother mistakenly put my crib right next to the radiator.
Oh.
You know, I mean, that's about it.
Do you remember burning your
You know,
hand?
I don't know if I remember burning my hand or if my mother reminded me of it.
Okay,
I think it's probably my mom reminding me.
but again, that's a sensory one. We're gonna talk about some of the sensory memories with taste and smell and touch, some of the ones.
And not to be seriously gross, but I wonder what that smelled like.
Yeah. Burnt skin?
Yeah, but I don't know. That I don't know.
Fred, you were gonna say something?
I think probably, mostly it's true, but I think with the sensory thing, that makes sense, because, I mean, I remember burning my mother's camera. I put it in the stove. And I remember, I visually can remember it.
At what age? 2?
I was two and a half, or, you know, I said camera hot. Yeah, I remember that. And then I remember eating a bunch of bananas, totally down to bananas in the back seat of the car of my folks when they were in Grand Falls, New Brunswick, Canada. We were grocery shopping, and so down to.
Smell and taste,
Yeah.
again,
And
some
there's
more
a
of the
few others
sensory
too,
there.
but,
Yes,
Well, this is interesting. I know I was 3 years and 2 weeks old because.
years and 2
I
weeks.
know that because of the date. So I was being taken care of by my immediate neighbor, and I didn't really know why. And then when my mom came home, it was a couple of days. And then when my mom came home, I only remembered this within the last 20 years or so. When my mom came home, I just remember feeling something was off. I didn't know what was off. But I put it all together about 20 years ago. My mom had just come home from labor, and she lost the child in labor. And she never told, I didn't know she was pregnant, I didn't know what that meant. I asked my brother about it, who's 2.5 years older than me, and he remembers. He knew she was pregnant, he knew all that, but I didn't. And so I remember though, that offness that I couldn't point out, and it kind of like over the years, it made me realize why she was depressed in retrospect, and
Sure.
all of those things.
So that was an emotional response you had, but you're not sure why.
Right, exactly.
Or you weren't then.
I'm very curious.
Linda?
I remember being taken to visit someone's apartment, and they had a live snake, a live alligator, a bird, and one other animal, a monkey. In someone's
No,
apartment.
wait, this was at a zoo?
No. And when I was about 12, I asked my mother, and she said, yeah, that happened. But I always kind of had this vision of these animals in an apartment.
Sure. I'm sure there are a lot more, but I'd like to get through this so we can cover some other area. This is great though, you've got some interesting memories. Which of the following helps turn short-term memories into long-term memories? Sleep. The human sleep cycle is crucial to making memories. If something important happens to you during the day, your brain strengthens your thoughts and feelings about the event overnight while you sleep. So that's something, again, this is based on research that's been done. So sleep is the correct. A short-term memory is likely to become a long-term memory if it has a link to sensory information, current or historic events, your long-term memory. So yes, all of the above. Details stored in your mind can be sorted in 3 categories: short-term, long-term, or remote, and recent or working. Short-term memory must have some kind of impact for you to store it. The more ties there are between that memory and your bank of long-term memories, the easier it'll be for you to recall it. Short-term memories usually don't last more than 15, 20, 30 seconds. So we're going to talk about those kinds of memories as well. Okay, a long-term memory fades because it's no longer important, some is plausible, replaced by other memories, that does too, but the correct one is we can't find the link to retrieve the memory. Once data has been stored in long-term memory, it's there forever. You can't always call it up because the link or association has faded. Short-term memories vanish quickly, as I just mentioned, sometimes a few seconds, and recent or working memories are often replaced by new information. So it's the working memory that's replaced by the new information part of this, but it's the link to retrieve it that is the key to a long-term memory, those that are around for a long time. Okay, what's more likely to help you remember to pick up the dry cleaning after work? Apparently this got cut off.
Yep.
I put having my wife text me just before I leave.
Okay, and that's correct. No. Focusing on it and committing it to memory early in the day is not what's going to remember. What got cut off is seeing a dry cleaning receipt in your wallet. So remembering to do something like run an errand or take medication, that's called prospective memory. And following through is tied to a trigger, like seeing the receipt or driving past a pharmacy. Oh, I got to stop at Walgreens. Than to having the task commit. You can't commit it to memory. It's something else that's going to trigger it. Okay, remember, next one. Which of the following can cause memory problems? Dehydration, stress, infections, or all of the above? All of the above. All of the above. That's what they all say. Trouble with total recall can come from many physical and mental conditions not related to aging, like dehydration, infections, and stress. Other causes include medications, substance abuse, poor nutrition, depression, anxiety, and thyroid imbalance. So there are a lot of things that can be involved there. Everyone will have some memory loss as they get older. This is probably one of the hardest questions on the quiz, I think.
Maybe it's false.
False. Memory problems come with age, but not everyone has them. People who are active, mentally and physically especially, tend to have a good working memory, more so than people who don't often or do as much to challenge their mind. So is memory loss a part of aging? Yes. Is it going to affect everyone? You've heard of the 95-year-old woman who can remember everything, short term, long term. Her kids are upset because they can't remember that. That's what you've got to keep in mind. It's not everyone, but a lot of people are. A good social life can keep your mind sharp as you age.
Yes.
That's why we're here, right? Boy, the sociability comes through over and over in the research. Studies show that older adults who stay socially active or live with someone have better mental function. So social activity. Blood pressure and memory loss are related. It's true. High blood pressure can affect blood vessels that supply the brain and lead to memory loss. The reverse may also be true. Studies show that aerobic exercise, which can lower blood pressure, may improve your memory. We'll be talking more about that. What's something older people can do to help their memory? One of the handouts I have, the front page is a picture of a crossword puzzle. Meditation, physical activity, yeah. So all of those, when an older person forgets where they parked the car, it may be caused by a lack of attention rather than a lapse in memory. Definitely true. If you're distracted when you're parking, if you don't take that picture of your parking spot, on what level you're on, or which lot you're in, it makes it much more difficult. So attention is one of the whole keys to memory. Attention. Memory problems are one of the first signs of Alzheimer's disease.
No.
According to research on Alzheimer's, one of the first signs is memory issues. So it's true. Even before people have Alzheimer's, like have a mild cognitive disorder, that doesn't mean you're going to get Alzheimer's, but people have mild cognitive disorder, and we'll talk about some differences here, which include some memory loss. Not all people with mild cognitive disorder develop Alzheimer's, but yes, one of the first things that might indicate beginning of Alzheimer's is memory problems, but it's not necessarily lead to it. You could have a serious memory problem if you
Maybe all of them, but get lost in places you know well.
That's actually correct. Not being able to recall where you put your keys, having trouble calling up a word or phrase, and taking longer to learn are mild forgetfulness, which is common. Lost in places you know well can be a signal of more serious problems. It could be Alzheimer's, it could be depression, it could be circulation issues. Asking the same questions repeatedly, not following directions. So, yeah, so getting lost in places you know well makes me think about some of my driving experiences. We won't get into that. Hopefully Jan won't either. Okay. You're more likely to get dementia if your spouse has it.
Oh, not related.
That's true.
This one I was a little surprised that based on the research, men and women living with a partner with dementia have a much higher risk of getting it themselves. How could that be? Even so, most people don't get dementia when their partner has it, but the stress of caregiving, there's a whole nother live and learn session on caregiving, which has been linked to depression and poorer overall health may be a factor. So, those are a few to get us started thinking about things I want to expand upon a little bit more. I think we're still doing okay.
Oh, yeah, you're fine. You don't have a time limit.
So, types of memory, different types of memory. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's good to talk about, okay, what are some of these types of memories? So, let's just pass them around and see how we do. We got 25 copies, sorry, that's what I brought. So if couples can share again, that'd be great.
Are you gonna share?
Oh, this one is actually this is a one-page one that I get a lot of people asking about. What's the difference between normal forgetfulness and people that develop Alzheimer's? So I think this one too.
Okay, going behind, you don't need it? There. Got one more, Barb? Oh, she's got a few more there. Barbara's got a few more? Okay.
So let's look at the one-page one quickly first, because that's kind of where I just ended with, it seems like it ended with some of the points that were made in the quiz.
I can share it, I can. We're sharing together. Oh, Susan has more, something.
We need it.
If there's some handouts you didn't get, I'd be glad to make some more and share, because there's some people that couldn't come that I said I'd share a handout.
Here's some more,
So I'll
here's some
make
more
more
extras of
copies.
those, Susan.
Jan was in it.
You guys got the one page?
Yep, last week's one page.
Yep.
So,
All right, great.
so people with normal forgetfulness.
Susan, I'll take
That
one.
ring a bell? Anybody here normally forgetful?
Susan, I'll take one.
Okay. So forget the details of a recent
There you go, Judy.
experience, but not the experience itself. And that's where, as we talk about types, some of the sensory comes in. You forget the experience, or you remember the experience itself, sometimes because there's something significant, something that really got your attention, those sensory parts of it. Where people with Alzheimer's forget recent experiences. So that's the difference of the two. Frequently remember a forgotten item later. Like my bike glove. Oh, hey, where's that other glove? Do not remember that they have forgotten anything. Did I bring my bike glove? I don't know. Anyway, can use notes and reminders to refresh memory. I think many of us do that. Notes and reminders. It looks like many of you put this on your calendar, because look how many people remember to come here. Cannot use notes or cues to aid in recall. You'll see someone, even in early stage Alzheimer's, that taking notes or trying to figure out cues, just, it doesn't work. Can recognize people and places, even if they cannot recall their name. With Alzheimer's, forgetting not the names, the person, the places, there's kind of a sequence with Alzheimer's where you lose that orientation to time and to place and to people around you, and the sad part in the later stages is even to yourself. So, normal forgetfulness can follow written or spoken directions, but eventually those with Alzheimer's cannot do that. Know the day and the time, gradually become disoriented time and season, as I just mentioned. So that's just a quick one. Oh, and then the point at the top, dementia is not an inevitable part of normal aging. If you live to be 80, we've got a few in here, he or she has a 75% chance of not developing.
That's good.
You made it.
So, that's something to celebrate. Okay. The other handout was on types of memories. Different types of memories. So just some of these we mentioned, but I just wanted to clarify, because people say, well, how many types are there? This article says 4 main types of memories. For years, researchers have debated the classification. And then other types that may be out there maybe fall within these. So sensory memory, that's the one some of you mentioned, many of you mentioned in terms of what you remember as a very small child. Remember, since that information after the stimulation has ended, the person's touch or a sound you heard in passing, and then it recurs and you start to attach other memories to it. It stops living in your sensory if it stops in your sensory memory. So, and then types of sensory memory, and I mentioned that, sight would be iconic memory, auditory, echoic memory, and touch, hepatic memory. So that hot thing you touched at 2 years old, that would fall under a sensory memory, and it's hepatic because it's a touch type of memory. Short-term memory, specific information for a very brief period. Primary or active memory, we don't usually see those terms. Rehearsing information, you try and remember a string of numbers. How many of you have a library card? How many of you remember your library card number? You do?
That's what I mean.
What's your library card number?
208 917 7824.
Wow.
Okay, it's 14, in Hannah County Library, it's 14 numbers.
You just made that up.
Mine is 219720674812113. 14 numbers. Why are you remembering that, Jim? You might ask. Well, I forgot my library card once. I put it away once when we were traveling and came back and didn't have it with me. So I went in and thought, I'm just gonna have to remember it. So I go to doing it manually when I go across the street to the library, and I just put the number in. But some of us are odd that way. You remember numbers. Your phone number when you were 10 years old. Right? That's a long time ago. You remember that number? Mine was easy because it was 2284567. Well, that made it easy. But the 22 is actually capital 8. Remember? It was a name to go with the number in front of it before that number. Yes.
I got a question, Jim. It says here, short-term memories last only estimated 15 to 30 seconds, which I guess is normal. How come we get tested, for when we go for physicals, have gotten tested for memory? They ask you to remember something, and then you
The
give
3 words?
Yeah, 3 words or 5 words or whatever it is, and you're supposed to give it back. And so why do they do that? Is that valid or not?
Well, they think it's valid. It's a research in neurology shows that you should be able to remember a few words. So, but then the way they do it, and then to backtrack about it, to remember those words, it's not an easy task.
I always tied it to something.
If you can tie the 3 words together, that's the way to do it, as a memory technique. Okay, what else we were talking here? Working memory on the 3rd page. Immediate, small amount of information to perform tasks. It can fall under short-term memory, and it's often used interchangeable. So the long-term memory is the one that we keep. There's explicit long-term memory. They talk about different episode, semantic memories, facts, and bits of information you've absorbed through the years. Some of you probably have some of those facts in your head. It's like, why do I remember this,
That's an example of working memory.
Example of working memory? Well, let's go back to that. Immediate and small information as you perform cognitive tasks. So you remember certain steps you have to do to make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. It's not something you memorize. but there are certain tasks involved in doing it. And again, if, as someone has more difficulty with that, they may at some point not be able to perform those tasks.
Yeah.
They've lost that working memory.
That makes sense.
Was there a question? Okay. So long-term memory, episodic memory, and then different types of memory. Why do we have different types of memory and how they're formed? And then, actually, I want to come back to the part about how to improve your memory with a couple more things here. This is an article, boost your memory by remembering these 5 steps. 5 steps to boosting your memory. So, did we have an ending? I mean, we're trying about an hour or so?
We don't have an ending.
Okay. If you didn't get certain handouts, you could just email me and I'll get them to you.
Thank you.
So they point out here, there are ways to increase our brain power. This is the brain health part, you know, memory, brain health, to boost our memory even as we age. And
Can I see
memory
that just to
typically
see how many
starts
pages?
declining. So it's understanding how the brain stores and recalls memory and bringing that to our advantage. So he says, start with the why. Do you need to better remember certain tasks and deadlines? Do you forget friends' birthdays? Do you want to retain a special skill? The motivation factor for improving memory has to do with this, having a clearer why. Start with the end in mind so you can be committed to doing it properly. We don't need, well, some people are still in the workplace, that's right. Performance is motivated, make better decisions and more confident. So start with the why, be ready for change. If you're not ready for change and to own it, it becomes infotainment. People say you should, you could, but you're not committed to owning it. So you figure out the why, you're committed to change. The next step is getting smart on which brain capacities to target and change. So this is where you focus on, okay, does this relate to stress, anxiety, forgetting passwords? What are your brain's strengths and limitations? Memory is one of the brain's 12 capacities. So stress control and focus are also in there. Assessing, measuring capacity, knows where you stand, increases that commitment to your own brain. Have a strategy, train for the moment. Improving your brain function bridges the gap. Increasing connections between neurons. He starts the article off, I didn't get into all the specifics. The human brain consists of about 85 billion neurons. And if each neuron could store a single memory, running out of space could be a problem. So it's equivalent to about 300 years of watching television. Whoa, that sounds terrible.
That sounds
Consolidation, learning something new. Got 30 seconds to consolidate clearly and cleanly so it gets converted down the pathway. Make those 30 seconds count. So if it's important, if it's got your attention, if something you want to remember, make it count. And then there's talks about sequences and becoming a brain athlete, rewiring your brain. And then tracking your progress as the last step. Boosting your memory, strengthening your commitment to the process. So again, you can read the specifics on this. The final one I want to give you is called 6 Tips to Keep Your Brain Healthy. And this is a 1 page, so.
I was gonna say root beer, but no.
So, when I mentioned I teach mental health and aging for 35 years. I taught physical health and aging. Really, there's a lot of overlap between those two, as many of you know, because when you think of mental health, the first tip here may not be the one you think of first, but it's exercise regularly. Regular physical activity benefits the brain. Multiple research shows physically active people are less likely to experience a decline in mental function and have a lower risk of developing Alzheimer's.
Yep.
So brain exercise. Oh, this is the one, see the picture at the top of the page? They're working on a puzzle at the puzzle table. I think the majority of people here haven't worked on that puzzle table, but keep that in mind. Get plenty of sleep. So sleep, like we said, sleep plays an important role in brain health. It helps clear abnormal proteins in your brain and consolidates memories, which boosts your overall memory and brain health. 7 to 8 hours. This is an issue for a lot of older adults, as we know, many of us know. Not fragmented sleep of 2 or 3 increments, but it's best if you can get 7 or 8 hours. And it talks about some of the issues with sleep apnea and things like that. People who closely follow, that's the next one. Mediterranean diet, that's one of the suggestions, or a version of it. They're less likely to develop Alzheimer's than people who don't. Mentally active, similar to muscle, use it or lose it. Most healthcare teams recommend paid brain training programs. So there's more and more going on with brain health in long-term care, which is great to see. We talked about number 5, socially involved. Social interaction wards off depression, stress, which contribute to memory loss. Connecting with loved ones, friends, others. Solitary confinement, brain can atrophy. And keeping your blood vessels healthy. So, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, and it relates to physical activity and it relates to diet. So these kind of all tie together. I mean, it's really common sense, some of these issues about brain health. So, questions people have about this? Yes, Richard.
Well, 2 really quick. One, I have a whole library of dreams that I can tap at, dream that come. So dreaming memories, where might that fit? And secondary, the whole part about the vagus nerve, and we just had a conversation in the men's room, your gut is your second brain, stimulating that, how does that second?
Well, wait, so let's start with the dreams. Are you talking about you doing your own dream diary? Or?
Which is dreams that I had 30 or 40 years ago. I mean, yeah, I have a collection of them.
Wow.
And you keep and you have,
Well, I started taking notes 40 years ago maybe. You know, that was suggested to help your brain. I read a Cosmopolitan article back.
Love it.
So, but, will that fit into one of the 5 different methods?
well, you know, just doing the journaling
The journaling.
would be a positive step toward that,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay,
Writing that down.
yeah.
the analysis of that is what I'm trying to figure out is how you might analyze what some of those dreams are about. That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
All of their dreams about, because I have dreams about rivers overflowing and my childhood home getting flooded. I mean, they're that.
Oh,
Flying,
wow.
sometime we all, probably in earlier decades, had dreams of flying.
Oh, yeah.
And that means something, obviously.
It does. And
It's cool.
dreams are something that some of us don't remember at all.
Yeah.
Many people wake up in the morning and can't remember a single thing from their dream. Nothing. Anybody identify with that?
I rarely remember. Yeah.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
And some people get up in the morning like Jan and tell me all about her dream. And it's fascinating. It's like, well, I can't remember mine.
Yeah.
So, and then parts of the brain, the memory part of the brain that they talk about in some of these articles, and I didn't get into the details of all the articles, but the hippocampus is the part of the brain they talk about a lot. So when you're looking at memory issues, and you want to explore what the hippocampus is, what it does, how it functions. I didn't want to get into that kind of detail, but that's the part of the brain, really, if you want to learn and read more about memory issues, look at the hippocampus as the part of the brain to learn more about. Yes, Fred?
Yeah, I brought it up Monday at our coffee clutch group, but regarding supplements like Provigen or something like that. What's your thoughts on that, other than just general good vitamins and good nutrition? But anything, does that help?
Well, one thing is, if a person takes one of those and they feel like it's helping,
Yeah.
then it shouldn't hurt them. The research about those drugs, generally, Prevagen.
Yeah.
The research about drugs like Prevagen is that there's no statistical evidence that it's helpful in improving brain function.
But it may have a placebo effect where if you think it is.
Right,
Exactly.
if you feel better about it,
Yep.
the placebo effect, yep, then
Placebo.
go for it.
Yep. It can't hurt you.
And that, some people view vitamins that way, although vitamins have some research behind them for their usefulness and helpfulness.
Anybody has any problems with memory, just come tell me, give me $3 and I'll tell you how great memory you have. So,
Yes,
This comes from my teaching background, but one of the things that seems to, that I've found, and I think there's research behind it, is if you interact with something in more than one way. So for example, if I'm hearing something and I take notes and write down something, that's a second trigger.
it reinforces
It
it.
reinforces it. And when I was teaching, I used to teach mind mapping to kids for, part of it was for understanding of what was going on. But every time, each time as they would make a map of, like, for example, something they read, a story or something, they could look at the map and a lot of memories would come back just from having a few words on the map.
Wow.
So my thought is that, the more different ways it goes through your brain, the more likely you are to remember.
I think that's definitely true.
So taking notes when you're at a lecture, or, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, and like, I used to mind map everything when I was.
So it sounds like another live and learn. Mind mapping.
Mind mapping, yeah. I
Yeah,
like it.
the reinforcing of different ways contributes to helping it become more of a memory, I think.
Right, more links in your brain.
Yep. Other questions? Yes.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna make a comment about when you were talking about let's see if I can remember. Couples, if one has dementia, it's a larger likelihood that the other will get it. That reminds me of epigenetics, which is that whole, because my response was, gosh, no, that can't be true.
Yeah, it seems true.
But then, you know, so our DNA is not necessarily the main factor in our health and in the direction our health is going and how we can, the decisions we make in our life, as far as how we eat and all the exercise and all that kind of stuff is a bigger determining factor necessarily, you know, somewhat, that's a belief in epigenetics that's a bigger factor than our genes and than our
Yeah,
genetics.
the lifestyle is huge factor.
Yeah, that's so helpful to know going forward, it gives hope.
It does, yes. Well, I don't want to keep people, I mean, it's been a little over an hour,
Ah.
but
Terrific.
I appreciate all,